Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast, where unfortunately today we are discussing a defeat against Arsenal. But were there some green shoots from that performance to be excited about? Mickey van der Ven's marginal offside may have been the difference, but we want to discuss VAR in a bit more detail today because I feel like there's much to discuss on why there's such a reluctance from referees to give Tottenham a penalty. And is the rumour true that Michael Oliver turned down the opportunity to review another penalty call for Spurs? It was Kulusevski's redemption, Super Romero, and is the most important signing for Spurs this season, a set-piece coach. And to discuss it all, we have Johnny over in Dublin. How are you?
I'm a bit better than I was 24 hours ago, but I was really angry yesterday. I actually don't usually get angry, but I was actually really angry for lots of reasons, which I will expand on. But I have to say, if they're watching, I'm going to indulge myself and just saying shout out to Juliet and Dara in my class, because I came in this morning. Dara had made a cake with blue icing, and Juliet had made a heap of Spurs posters to show saying Spurs are the goats and all this kind of stuff, because they knew I was going to be in a bad state. So I love them and I'm so grateful to them. So that did cheer me up. But it's still a North London derby defeat, unfortunately, that we're talking about today.
Well, shout out to your class.
Yeah.
And Stu, it looked like you were watching the game in beautiful sunshine with cold beer on tap. Did Spurs still ruin your day?
Yeah, it was a real shame because Dubai Spurs got launched yesterday. We renamed from UAE Spurs to Dubai Spurs. So it kicked off with legends of the club congratulating us on the renaming of the club. We had a wonderful family barbecue thing turn out. Beer was, unlimited. Food was unlimited. We had a lovely young lady come and sing Glory, Glory Tottenham Hotspur to kick off the game. And then it all went wrong, didn't it?
It did just a bit. It just had a little tint of how things go against Chelsea. Yeah, there was some similarities with Chelsea in a way that everything that could have gone our way didn't, and everything that could have gone Arsenal's way did. So I'm just thinking, if we go over the instance in the game, and this isn't like some heartfelt, oh my God, we have to hold ourselves as a club, from coaching to players to everyone. If you concede an own goal in the way we did and a sloppy set piece in the way we did, you can't expect to come out of a game with a win and just because of soft penalty calls and things like that. You've got to take some responsibility yourself and point fingers in other directions as well. But Van der Ven's offside was the classic reason we all hate VAR, right? It was the armpit hair analysis, which we all want to see VAR step away from and just focus on clear and obvious errors. Then it was the most blatant penalty. We did get the penalty, but it felt like the referee was forced to give it because it was on TV. It's like, I have to go actually give that now because someone's in my ear saying it and there's replays going on about it. And then Kulusevski had a debatable one. We'll discuss that today, but I think that was one of those arguable ones, but it wasn't even considered for the debate. The referee, if you believe what you read online, was told by VAR, it's up to you if you want to review it, but there's a potential penalty. And he decided to play on because he had seen better view of it. We don't know if that's true. That's according to some US halftime commentary that isn't verified. But where should we start the decisions, guys? Do we start with
the lineup?
Yeah. Oh, we could actually go back to the lineup.
Yeah.
That would make sense because Højbjerg was the big name in for Bissouma, and then he obviously reverted back to Kulusevski on the wing. What did you make? Yeah, what did you make of the lineup, Johnny? You start.
I think Davis coming in for Udogie was a no-brainer. In midfield, I think, considering Bissouma's recent performances, and I know we keep caveating by saying Højbjerg off the bench has been very good, and he's not really done much wrong in the last few times he's played. So I was kind of expecting Højbjerg. I wouldn't have been surprised if he stuck with Bissouma. I wasn't particularly bothered by that because we've been that's been one of our weak positions. What I was really surprised, I was kind of like, before we saw the lineup, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Kulusevski was picked because clearly through the season Ange is really fancying, and it's a big game, and Kulusevski's got a decent record in my opinion in big games, and he's obviously experienced of that that particular match, that fixture. What I was really surprised was that Johnson was dropped. I know you're not okay if you're going to play Johnson, then he's going to end up in the left, so he sticks with Werner on the left. I just think, is there an issue with Richarlison's fitness still? But he was supposed to be training all week. I was sure that Son would play in the left from the beginning and Richie would go into the middle from the start. And I think one of the things that we might get into a little bit more later is just in terms of the in-game management and the time it took for the things I would be taking issue with Postecoglou, and obviously like we're all like big supporters of his, right? But I think he brought Sarr on early, but he didn't bring on Richarlison early enough. Obviously, and he bought on Johnson really early because Werner was so horrendous at the beginning. But I really wish we'd seen Richarlison coming on much sooner than he did, and it was kind of course, and was Maddison went off as well, like just before that, wasn't it? So you kind of think it's one of those things. Is a coincidence, but the second goal, or was it the second goal? It was the first goal, the Romero's goal, just sort of coincided with about the next phase of play after those substitutions were made. It was like, okay, now we can do what I wish we'd started done 20 minutes ago. So yeah, in terms of the lineup, that I was really disappointed that Werner was playing. I was really disappointed because he's been absolutely useless, and that's what transpired. So that for me was the biggest disappointment.
Yeah. Stu, do you agree? Do you have anything else to
Yeah,
add on that?
I agree. The Højbjerg thing, we've said all season he shouldn't start because we haven't won a single game that he started. So I was surprised at that. On the pod a week ago, we spoke about how Kulu was the only one of the forward players who could hold the ball up, that Son wasn't able to do it. Richie was better, more physical, so Richie should be the centre forward. So I was very disappointed at the forward line. Not with Kulu replacing Johnson, but I would have had Son left wing and Richie in the centre. And at halftime in our chat, I said Madison off, Kulu in the middle.
Yeah.
And it took him 18 more minutes before he did it, and that really disappointed him.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say we had that's where the first constructive criticism would be that we'd like to see earlier changes, and this is a repeating pattern, right? It's not just, we're not saying it, we're firmly Ange people, but I think you've got to look at any game and say, you can't just be like, no, everything's perfect, it was all down to bad luck.
Yeah.
And yes, he doesn't maybe have confidence in the players he's bringing on, perhaps, and the squad he's got, which is maybe why he's not utilising them in the way he'd like to, and he's still trying to give players a chance to prove themselves before making final decisions, some of them next season. So there's a bigger picture and longer term view he has versus what us as fans have. When it's a North London derby, we just want to win at all costs, regardless of what impact that has on next season.
Just one last thing, sorry. I just wonder also what message he's giving to the other squad players when someone like Madison is so poor, plays so poorly again in the derby, and it took until the 63rd minute before he was taken off. It's not a good message to the likes of Lo Celso and anyone else where he tells, no, I see you, a lot in you. I want you to, I'm going to rely on you. And then you're not given a chance.
I guess the bit we don't see is the personalities of players behind the scenes. And if he thinks some players need to be played through bad form and dropping them will compound the issues. But I get what you mean. Like, you can't deliver a message that you need people who are going to fight for their spot, and if you do well in training and blah, 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 you're going to get your opportunity, and then persist if someone... But we don't know if Lo Celso's been doing well in training, I guess, or if he's happy with him on that side, but I get the point. So there is...
It's what happens on the pitch, isn't it? And Maddison has okay, he had his injury, but that's now... obviously, all of us want all of our players to be the best they can, and I'd love Maddison to come back and play the way he did at the beginning of the season, and maybe he will, but I think it's just that this has been going on for quite a long time, and we're running out of games, and it's the North London derby, and your playmaker is really not playing very well at all. So, like, I fully agree. I think Stu's absolutely right. I mean, like, Lo Celso's done quite well when he's come on. So, and obviously, he's making some kind of rogue decisions with substitutions late on because of the game situation. But he was very quick to bring off Werner, and it was
that was
like
injury,
half an hour or something like that.
That was an injury, Johnny.
Sorry,
that was an injury.
An injury. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
All right. I was so pissed off with that. I was running off to the bathroom at that stage because I don't. Were we 1-0 down or 2-0 down? Probably two. Okay, there you go. I thought it was tactical. I thought, well, good call. He should have got him off there.
Yeah. But we should look at
Okay.
the positives in that game in terms of the few positive performances as
Mm.
well, right? There were, I think, Kulusevski had an example of a player who's gone through that adversity of he's been dropped, people start to question him, he's been given an opportunity, and he's really stood up and taken it over that game the way I saw it. Did you guys see it in the same way?
Yeah. I think it's one of the few players that could hold his head up high, to be honest.
The other big one, we know who that
Yeah, so
is.
you're obviously going to say Romero. I mean, like I thought like for the first half hour, Kulusevski was our best player, and he was just everywhere. He wasn't really putting any foot wrong. He was effective cutting in as well as like Stu's point up there. But the way he holds the ball up, he doesn't lose the ball. He gives the ball away. He doesn't lose it like when he's in possession. But Romero was unbelievable, and I didn't. I just saw the heat map there on Match of the Day 2. I was watching it before a few minutes ago, and it was absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, he was incredible, and even from the distance of being high up enough in the East Stand, you don't need to have the cameras. The TV cameras up close to see what the difference that he was making, and it was just. I mean, like I might have given a soliloquy on my adoration for Sonny a couple of weeks ago, but when you see a performance like that, and obviously we've had our discussions over time about Romero and his discipline and some of the decision making and stuff, but I think that as the season's gone on, and in general, like his discipline has been better, his commitment, and I don't really think can be questioned, and that performance was iconic. Actually, I would say he was just an absolute monster. He was a giant, and his attitude was incredible. Like his heart was like jumping out of his chest. He was like absolutely. The way he took that goal was also
Yeah.
just shows how many defenders are gonna be that composed in that situation. Like so much riding on that. Like he's put himself in that position. There were so many times. I mean, he obviously hit the post in the first half. He also had a header just over the bar in the first half. He had another header over the bar before he got his goal. Like he was winning the ball high up the pitch, and he was still running into the box after that. He wasn't winning the ball, recycling, and then getting back into position. He was just like staying up there, determined to make things happen, and he got his reward with the goal. But like that, it just kept going throughout the game. I think that was the best performance I've seen from him, and it does make you sort of wonder when we've had discussions about the captaincy, and it's another sort of narrative that's out there. If Son is going to be a player that's going to be utilised more in rotation, and you want your captain to be the first name on the team sheet, then like after a performance like that, I just think you sort of die at the feet of Christian Romero after that kind of a showing, and we're so lucky to have him and Van de Ven together. Like they were really good yesterday, and we obviously lost. And that's interesting because you're talking about the positives. Sorry, I'm monologuing again, but there's when you're talking about the positives from yesterday, actually quite a lot of positives from yesterday, despite the score and despite the fact that we're 3-0 down, after 38 minutes, and that's maybe the biggest out of them all because. Yeah, himself and Van de Ven, I thought were brilliant. The way we're giving away the goals has nothing to do with our inept defend. Well, is set pieces. Yeah,
Pieces.
and that's basically what it comes down. It comes down to margins and moments. And yesterday, margins and moments went against us, and we've got ourselves to blame for some of that for sure.
Stu, I've seen some people. We all see the game through different lenses. Everyone sees it differently, and there's a very lot of emotion going around during the game. But I've seen two very opposite views. Surprise, surprise, on how people saw the game, and I'm interested to see where you take. Some say it was just an abject performance, terrible from every aspect of the pitch, from decisions, lineup, coaching, etc. And others have said, you know what, we outplayed them for 89 minutes, but we switched off for 2 minutes, and within that 90 seconds worth of football we switched off over the course of 90 minutes, we gave away three calamitous goals that were very, very avoidable. Where do you sit in amongst? Are you somewhere in the middle? Are you on one of those
Yeah,
sides?
I think it's so in the middle. I really take umbrage with people who are claiming that it was an abject performance, and we're another example of Ange not having a plan B and being out of his league. And I mean, to be honest, I find it offensive,
I agree.
because we were not outplayed. I am not saying we outplayed them either, despite the 73% possession, etc. Because that was. But if you look at the actual chances, what did they create? They had the Saka chance that Vicario saved with his feet, and apart from that, every shot on target went in, including an own goal. And it was the same for us. Romero had the chance to hit the post, the chance that just went wide of the post, the Son chance, which
Oh,
how often have we been going on about best clinical finisher in the league? So we did create chances. Obviously, the penalty skews the xG quite a lot. But our xG was higher than theirs. David Raya blew it, but okay, that's also due to our push. I would say it was a fairly even performance. I think a draw was probably a deserved result.
yeah.
And I think if we look at the fact, whether we like to admit it or not, they are probably, if not the best, clearly the second best team in the league, one of the best teams in Europe. And we went toe to toe with them for the second time this season in year 5 of his project. And this
Six,
is
isn't
month
it?
6 of Ange's projects. I
Yeah.
mean, are we joking by saying that we've got, it was a terrible performance? Get out of here.
Yeah, we were a
Totally.
decent number 6 away from that being a draw or a win, right? Because you
Or,
wouldn't have
or
had the
even
own goal.
millimeters away from,
Yeah,
from a penalty being given, the
Yeah.
Mickey van de Ven to make it 1-1, the Romero header against,
Yeah.
we were millimeters away in 3 or 4 different occasions from it being a draw. And if we get that 1-1 draw, you know, I think it would have been a very, very different result.
Yeah.
So the next topic we've got to go on to, because we're just doing a small episode today, we're going to do another one on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. We discuss that, guys. But there's talks of positions we need to make signings for, just in other pods. But I've heard people saying the most important signing is a set piece coach. I've heard we've brought on this new person that Ange brought in. But do you think we need to overhaul that part of the coaching staff? I know we barely know anything behind closed doors about this person. But I think you've got to look at where the consistent errors are being made, right? And say these players are better than the level they were performing at in set pieces. Is that fair?
Yeah, we talk about corners like all the time, and like it's like yesterday when Arsenal get a corner, I'm looking at Jesus. It's not quite getting like conceding a penalty, but the odds of conceding compared to over the years when you're watching, you think okay, the 5% chance that you're going to concede or something like that is like whoa. I'm bricking it every time we concede every time we concede a corner. And it happened again twice. And when you're looking at the position, it struck me yesterday that our players, the vast majority of them are lined up in the front post, and the Arsenal boys are almost all at the back. So like, it doesn't take a genius. Now, I'm obviously just Joe Bloggs here, right? Then there's guys who are paid and have got to the top of their game coaching for Premier League sides who are clearly far more experienced and better informed than me. But it seems to me that's insane because the fellas at the front can't see behind them, and whenever the ball's played in, they don't know where the runners are going. And you've got that. That's you got and you've got players who are tracking other players, and they're blocking their teammates. And that happened for the second goal when Kulusevski was blocked by Davies and he couldn't track Havertz. So like those things seem pretty basic. So I mean, we have been crap all season at defending set pieces. So I know what Ange is saying, that there's other things to be worrying about and stuff, and we got a lot of work to do in lots of areas. But considering the significance and the volume of times in a match when you're going to be up against these sorts of moments, like it is a massive priority. So. And it's going to be interesting again. Like Shay Given was on Match of the Day too, and he was talking about Vicario. Obviously getting the goalkeeper's perspective, that he was talking about that with all the antics that Ben White was coming up with. If it's your player, you're thinking, oh, well, like we used to Lamella and stuff. You kind of like respect that, and kind of like he's winding up the opponent, the players, putting them off and everything. So Ben White's going to do that. He was in his rights to do that. You can argue. And Vicario's not like Shea Given was saying Vicario should be pulling in one of his defenders to stop that kind of crap and give him some protection, and that makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. And okay, it's easy in retrospect, but it's not exactly a shock either when it happens. You'd say that before it happens as well. We've been saying it on the pod, to have a defender in there. So yeah, I just seems to be a bit of a no-brainer again. That
I,
we're really, really weak.
I was disappointed with Ange's response to that at the press conference, to
Yeah.
be honest, because ever since the City game, where apparently we are ref differently to every other keeper in the league. Because I was saying to Johnny before we went on air that Richard Keys was actually defending us on the BN pundit post match, saying that for him both their corners they were fouls on the goalkeeper because they're literally not just standing in front of him but moving around him, pushing him, shoving him out the way. Those are fouls. It's obstruction. It's fouls, whether you like it or not, whether it's soft, whatever. But every other goalkeeper it's given a foul against. But saying since the City game, we know that we don't get it. Something should have been done. And it's game after game after game that happens. And what happened? First corner in the second half, Sarr got involved, and it's never happened again. If that had happened from minute one, the first corner in the game, we wouldn't have had this problem. So
Yeah.
for me, that's just a poor coaching side.
Yeah.
I do think that you have to take a lesson out of Jurgen Klopp's book, and this is why the big kickoffs happen when these things happen to him in Liverpool and don't happen again to him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just making that big storm. It always happens to us. It's unfair. It's cheating. Look, and just banging on about it. And then after a while, it does make refs and officials feel self-conscious about it and aware of it and think, oh, I better err on the side of caution with this one. Like, am I being unfair? Question themselves. Whereas I think we try to take the moral high ground, but thou who takes the moral high ground in football is the loser. And I think Jose Mourinho tried to hammer that into us as well. And we have to remember as well, this is like a learning curve for everyone at Spurs, this new era, and that will probably Ange will probably develop the way he manages that over time as well. And like we said, look, we're firmly in the core of we believe in the mission. It's going to work out. It'll be okay. It's only 10 months in. He's only got 5 players in out of a squad of 23 or whatever that he probably actually wants. And we've seen more good than bad change, considering we lost Harry Kane, who has carried that team from mid-table to 8th. He's basically got a mid-table side. He's managed to get into the top 6 in his first season. So big picture stuff and all that. But any final comments, guys, before we wrap up this episode?
I just have one last thing that I was proud of the second half because at halftime I feared a similar result to the Chelsea one against Arsenal, and the fact that they didn't give up, that they stuck by it, and they got us. I mean, if we learned how to cross a ball instead of those looping, ridiculously slow crosses, if we learned how to cross a ball, the last 5 minutes, I reckon we could have got something because they were buckling, and if we'd have scored, their league fight was over because mentally they are still weak, and it proved to me yesterday. Their second half showed to me they were still weak.
So to be fair, I think we have to caveat with Ange got the second half spot on in many ways because we did concede. We were 3-0 at half time, weren't we?
Yeah, 3-0 half time.
So we won the second half 2-0, right? So you've got to say whatever he did at half time was a dramatic improvement on the first. So lessons learned. We move on. Huge game coming up pretty much every weekend now. Well, we've got City and Liverpool still to play, and Chelsea, don't we?
Yeah, we always do well up at Anfield, don't we?
Oh, if I could only win one game for the rest of the season, it would be winning against Chelsea, of course.
Chelsea.
But also Liverpool. It'd just be lovely to send
Klopp off.
And that way with enough to beat Anfield.
Yeah.
But
just like we've been sort of critical and tried to be balanced here, and we're all still a bit emotional about what happened yesterday. But like I think that it's whatever people think of how we respond to the situation. We're Spurs fans. We really believe in Ange Postecoglou. There's been a huge amount of progress made. We're not like saying that somebody gets off scot-free every time, like with any defeat. You got to be objective, or as objective as you can in a situation where you're very emotional about something. But I just wish the fans would have the sizable portion of fans who, and they're entitled to their opinion, but like don't be giving abuse to people who have a different opinion either. We're not like being abusive towards supporters who have a different opinion. I get frustrated. I'm fully with Stu on this. I think we just need to bloody calm down. It's the same thing with yesterday. Like Stu's been leading the narrative as well and responding to how we've been invariably pretty poor in the first half and then come out and it's been a different second half performance. And that's happened over and over. And we're getting all this sort of reaction to what's happened in the first half way, way over the top. And okay, yesterday we didn't come back and salvage anything from the situation. But even in the first half, like we weren't the better team in the first half. It was pretty even. The moments didn't go against us, but the scoreline was absolutely brutal in the game, the biggest game of the season for us. We're all like really, really emotional about it. But we need to just get behind the team. We're all part of the same club. Like we all want the same thing, and I think that the parts that are missing, like we're building towards it, and there's things in place now to give us a confidence that, like with the time, we've got the person in charge who will make this happen. And I just really feel that we, as a fan base, we have to trust the manager and believe in whatever decisions he makes. And okay, sometimes he's going to get it wrong because we all make mistakes. And I just can we just get behind Ange, and whatever happens between now and the end of the season, you know, Chelsea is a tough game, Liverpool's a tough game. We could lose 4 games in a row. But that doesn't mean like Ange is some kind of fraud. We got the succession of games. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting how it all ends up, and I think we can kiss goodbye to 4th. But it doesn't mean that what's happening between now and the end of the season is kind of some irrelevance.
John, it's never going to go away because there's polarized fans, and it always links back to the whole ownership stuff, and all links back to does tomorrow's situation strengthen my argument about that whole, we don't go into it on here, but the whole ENIC topic and everything. And there's an ultimate thing of, if the manager fails, that can be pointed directly at someone else to say, got it wrong again. Exactly. That's what he's changing. It's not the man in the seat in the dugout. It's the person upstairs choosing them. And then equally, I get there's the other side. If you're one of those people, I get it. It's your choice. It's your football club as much as it is ours. So you have the right to despise that person or want that person as anyone else. Yeah. But equally, there's other people probably peeing them off by, they've said, well, we've been through the cycle 15 times. You're always telling me to back the manager. But I think this is where we need to listen. We've never truly backed a manager, and we have financially, but I mean, in terms of length of time, we always pull the trigger after 18 months of struggles. Let's try letting someone see through their project over 3+ years now, because everyone above us has done that and stayed there and sat through some form of crap along the way.
This is going to be the first manager that sees out the full season since 2019.
Exactly. It's the solution.
We need to stop changing
again. Exactly. Yeah. I need to go, boys, but up the Spurs.
Go on you Spurs.
Go on you Spurs.